Hello, fifth graders, it's Mrs. Tremblay. This is for any of you who missed Tuesday's Zoom or small group time. It's Tuesday, December 8th. And of course, we started off with a number talk. And we're looking at subtracting fractions from whole numbers. So I want you to do these in your head. The first one we did was 2 minus 1 and 4/5. So you can go ahead and think on through that one and press play when you're ready. Okay. So the first strategy that came out was that individual said, you know what, Mrs. Tremblay, I can't take 4/5 away from no fraction right there. So I changed the 2 to a 1 and gave it 5/5. And then I took 1 and 4/5 away from that. And 5 minus 4 is 1/5 and 1 minus 1 is 0. So many people got an answer of 1/5 to start. We did have some individuals that said, well, I counted up, I looked at 4/5 and I knew that 4/5 plus 1/5 gives me 1 whole. And if I put that with the 1 whole that's already there, I would get 2. So if you take 1 and 4/5 and add 1/5 to it, you'd get 2. So that's how they got the answer of 1/5. All right, the next problem I gave was 2 minus 1 and 2/5. And again, similar strategies. I had some people use 1 and 5/5 minus 1 and 2/5. And 5 minus 2 is 3/5. So they got 3/5 for an answer. I did have someone notice that this is 1 and 2/5 and this was 1 and 4/5. This is 2/5 less than that. So they just added 2/5 to the previous answer that we had and used the previous problem, which works. I had some other people that said, well, 1 and 2/5 plus 3/5 would give me the 2 that I start with. So that's what was missing. So they kind of counted up with that. And those were kind of the strategies that came out from our Zoom time today. We then moved on to our workbook page packet, and we finished the problems on page 32. So if you could move to page 32 in your workbook page packet, again, we are on page 32. And again, if you don't have that, pause me and go and grab it. We're just gonna finish the rest of these, and then after this, we'll have some whiteboard time. All right, so yesterday we started working on these. These are the 2-step problems, and we paired it with estimating to see, do our answers make sense? So the first one is, a rain barrel contained 32 gallons of water. Bettina used 15 1/4 gallons to water her garden. She used that. Then it rained, adding 6 3/4 more gallons. How much water's in the rain barrel now? So let's take this step by step. We started with 32, and if Bettina used 15 1/4, that means that she took it away. So the first part of this would be 32 minus 15 1/4. And we solve that off to the side, 32 minus 15 1/4. And first we see, hey, there's not a fraction up here. There needs to be one because I can't take 1/4 away from nothing. So 32 becomes 31, and here we have 4/4. And again, you can pause me, solve this through, and then press play after. 4/4 minus 1/4 is 3/4, and 31 minus 15 is 16. I knew that one because 16 plus 15 is 31. So right now we're at 16 3/4, but that's not how much rainwater's in the barrel now, because it says after she used that, then it rained, adding 6 3/4 more gallons. So we had this much, it rained and added another 6 3/4 gallons. So that means we need to add 6 3/4 to our previous answer. So we had 16 3/4, now we're gonna add 6 3/4 to that. So I'm hoping you're celebrating the like denominators here. Yay! We can just add. 3 plus 3 is 6. My denominator stays. And when you do 16 plus 6, I would just count up. You end up getting 22. So I mean 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Or maybe you said, I pulled 4 from that 6 and gave it to the 16 to make 20, and there were 2 left over. However you work it. I have 22 6/4. Hopefully you're noticing 6/4 is not proper. I can pull 1 whole from there, 4/4. And to get from 4 to 6, there was 2 extras out of 4. So for our final answer, the 22 and the 1 does make 23. And we're not going to write this as 2/4. We're going to write this as 1/2. And that would be gallons. 23.5 gallons. And now we have to ask ourselves, how can we prove that this is reasonable? Why is this reasonable? It's reasonable because 32 is already a whole number. 32 minus 15 1/4 would be closest to 15. So 32 minus 15, that gives me 17. And then it says that they added 6 3/4, so I'm going to add 6 3/4 is closer to 7. And when you do 17 plus 7, you get 24, which is very close to 23.5. So our answer is totally reasonable. All right, for number 7, Anna hikes 3 7/8 miles and stops for lunch. Then she hikes 5 1/4 miles more and stops to rest. A sign where she stops says it's 2.5 miles to the end of the trail. How long is the trail? All right, so it says that she hikes 3 7/8. So we're assuming she's starting at the beginning, right? She goes 3 7/8, and then she stops, and then she hikes another 5 1/4 more miles. So I would put those two together to start. 3 7/8 plus 5 1/4. I'm going to do that off to the side here. 3 7/8 plus 5 1/4. Now, before you start getting the common denominator of 32, that's not the LCM. 8 is the LCM. You should multiply 1/4 by 2/2. So I end up with 3 7/8 plus 5 2/8. You don't have to multiply both fractions. 7 plus 2, I now have 9/8, and 5 plus 3 is 8. So I'm at 8 9/8, and this 9/8, that's improper. I can fit one whole 8/8 in there with one left over out of 8. So when we put them together, we're now at 9 1/8. Now it says a sign where she stops says it's 2.5 miles to the end. So the question is, how long is the trail? She's now at 9 1/8, and she has another 2.5 to go. We would add that 2.5 to the 9 1/8. So let's do that. I'm going to write down 9 1/8 plus 2.5. And again, the LCM is not 16. You don't need to multiply this by 2/2 and this by 8/8. Why? Because 2 times 4 is 8. You only need to multiply one of those fractions. So now I'd have 9 1/8 plus 2 4/8. And we get a final answer of 4 plus 1 is 5/8. 9 plus 2 is 11. So we get 11 5/8. And this is miles. It's a long trail. Now we want to know, is this reasonable? All right, so let's use our estimation. We added all of these, right? So I'm going to round each of these to the nearest whole number and add them. 3 7/8 is closest to 4. 5 1/4 is closest to 5. 4 plus 5 is 9. And if you look, our first part, we got 9 1/8. That's really close to 9. Then we went another 2.5. Honestly, if you already see a half in there, I would just keep it because a half is a benchmark. So 9 plus 2.5, 9 plus 2 is 11, and then we just have that half. And 11.5 is super close to 11 5/8. 5/8, half would be 4/8. So we know that it's reasonable. The last problem on here, the check for understanding, says circle the equation that could be used, that could be the solution equation from problem 6. So when you look up at number 6, it says the rain barrel contained 32 gallons. We used 15 1/4 and then added 6 3/4 more. So in looking at this, I want to know which one of these matches that. Well, they both start out with 32 minus 15 1/4, because that's the water that's being used. Then it says 6 3/4 more was added. This one shows that it's being taken away. So that second equation could give me the solution. And when you're solving something like this, you would just go from left to right with what we just did. All right, now what I'd like you to do is set this aside. I want you to get your whiteboard, marker, and eraser. And we're going to do some practice problems on whiteboards. Not tons and tons, just a couple that we did today to practice to make sure we know how to estimate. So here is our first one. We're going to do 2/5 plus 4/7. We're just going to solve that. So I want you to go ahead and solve it out and then press play when you're done. You can check your work. All right, with this one, the LCM is 35. I can't multiply 5 by something to get 7, and the first number they have in common is 35. So I would multiply this by 7/7 and this by 5/5. That would make my new fraction that I'm going to solve 14/35 plus 20/35. 14 plus 20 is 34, so we get 34/35. Were you right? I can't hear you. I hope you said yes. Now we want to use estimation to see if our answer is reasonable. So when you have these fractions, I want you to round it to the nearest 0, 1/2, or 1. So with 2/5, when I look at 2/5, here's 0, here's 1. A lot of people want to jump and say, oh, it's closer to 0, because you know it's not closer to 1, but don't forget about the halfway mark, okay? So I'm going to put this on the number line to show you. 2/5 on here, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can draw 4 lines and get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. 2/5 would be right here. This is an odd denominator, so that means my halfway mark is actually going to be right in the middle of this middle section here. So the halfway mark is actually right here. So if I wanted to know if this dot was closer to 0, 1/2, or 1, I know we think it's 0, but it's actually 2 away from 0. It's only a little section away from the halfway mark. So 2/5, I would use 1/2 as my estimate. Now let's look at 4/7. We put 4/7 on there, 0 and 1. I need 6 sections. 4/7 would be 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5, 6, 7. The halfway mark again, because we have an odd denominator, there's 1 section in, 1 section in, 1 section in. The halfway mark is going to be right here. So I know originally we might think, oh, it's closer to 1. Yeah, if I was only going between 0 and 1, it would be closer to 1. But on this line, can't you see how close it is to 1/2? I would use 1/2 for the 4/7. That means that my estimate would be 1/2 plus 1/2, which is 1. The actual answer we got is 34/35. Is that really close to 1? It most certainly is. All right, let's try another one. So go ahead and erase and write this one down. 13/20 plus 3/10. Go ahead and solve that out and press play when you're ready. Okay, I am really hoping that you didn't get 200 for your denominator, because you do not have to multiply this by 10 over 10 and this by 20 over 20. The LCM here is 20. You only had to multiply the 3/10 by 2 over 2. So your actual equation you're solving is 13/20 plus 6/20, which gives you an answer of 19/20. So that's what you should have. Now let's use rounding to see how close we are. Okay, we have 13/20, and I want to know, is this closer to 0, 1/2, or 1? So I'm going to draw this out, 0 and 1. Now my halfway mark, if I have 20ths, would be 10/20. So I want you to picture where 13 would be on here. Wouldn't 13 be 3 away from the halfway mark, but 7 away from the whole? Yeah, so 13/20 is closer to 1/2. When you have 3/10, I have 0, I have 1. If I'm dealing with tenths, the halfway mark would be 5/10. 3/10 would be right here, which is only 2 away from 5/10, but it's 3 away from the 0. So 3/10 would actually be closer to 1/2. So my estimate, I would take 1/2 plus 1/2, which is 1. And is 1 really close to 19/20? Yes, it is very, very close to 19/20. All right, let's do another one. Let's solve. Which one did I pick? Oh, 13/18 plus 1/2. Go ahead and solve that out. Press play when you're ready. Okay, you do not have to multiply this by 18/18 and this by 2 over 2. You only need to multiply the 1/2 by 9/9 because the LCM is 18. So you're really solving 13/18 plus 1 times 9 is 9/18. So 13 plus 9, that gives us 22/18. And I can fit one full group of 18/18 there. There's 4 left over out of 18. And today I did say, okay, that's fine. You can have that. You can have that answer, but you could simplify this even further because 4 and 18 are both divisible by 2. to get a final answer of 1 2/9. All right, let's use some estimation skills. I have 13/18. I want to know which one that is closer to, 0, 1/2, or 1. So if I'm on a number line here, here's 0, here's 1. If I'm dealing with 18ths, the halfway mark is 9/18, right? So 13/18, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13/18 would be 4 away from the half mark. And if I'm at 13, I would have to add 5 more to get to the 1. So it's really a close race here, but 1/2 wins. This is already a half, so you don't have to do anything to it. So we get 1 for our estimated answer, and 1 is really close to 1 2/9, so I know that we are good. All right, 1 left. 1 more, and we have 2 1/5 plus 5 1/3. Go ahead and press pause and finish it up, and press play when you're done. All right, with this, we have to multiply the top by 3/3 and the bottom by 5/5 because the LCM is 15. So you should have, for your actual problem you're solving, 2 3/15 plus 5 5/15. 3 plus 5 is 8, and the 15 doesn't change. 2 plus 5 is 7. So the answer for our actual answer is 7 8/15. Now we have mixed numbers here, and when we are rounding the mixed numbers, you can round to the nearest whole number. 2 1/5, is it closer to 2 or 3? Yeah, it's only 1/5 away from the 2, so that would be my estimate. And 5 1/3 would be closer to the 5. It's only 1/3 away. So my estimate would be 7. Now I get an actual answer of 7 8/15, which you might be thinking, well, that's kind of far away. Like, this is almost a half. But let's look back. In this one, when we did our estimate, we did have 1/5 that we didn't use, right? And this one, we did have 1/3 more that we didn't use. So on both of these, we had a little bit more than each amount. That means I'm gonna get a little bit more than my estimate. So we're actually okay. Now you're all caught up. See you soon.